All right, get ready for a wild one. This deep dive takes us into Joe Rogan and Lex Fridman's conversation on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Oh, yeah, you warned me about this one.
I mean, you gave me the full transcript, and wow, these two, they go all over the place. From, like, Genghis Khan to,
What? Go on. You can say it.
well, to, ejaculating in space.
Yeah, there's that Rogan touch, right? The mix of, like, super smart conversation and then, bam, totally off-the-wall stuff.
Exactly. So how do we even approach this deep dive?
Well, our goal is to dig through all that and find the good stuff, the insights on history, technology, the stuff that makes you think.
Okay, I'm with you. But those tangents, like seriously, space travel and the mechanics of procreation in zero gravity, what's that all about?
Honestly, some of it is just to be shocking, right? But they use it to get into some pretty deep conversations, too.
Like what?
Like they go from that crazy stuff right into talking about SpaceX's Starship program, the challenges, the whole thing. And remember, they were watching a live Starship launch while they recorded this.
Yeah, you showed me that clip. Pretty amazing footage. But I see what you mean. It's not just about the spectacle.
Right. They're trying to figure out the human side of space exploration, what it means for us.
That makes sense. And what about Genghis Khan? I mean, the guy was a brutal tyrant, right?
Absolutely. But Fridman, he argues that Genghis Khan was actually progressive in some ways.
Wait, seriously, how?
He points to things like Genghis Khan promoted women to have real power. He was all about religious tolerance. And he thought your skills were more important than who your family was.
Okay, that's not what I expected. But is Fridman saying Genghis Khan was a good guy?
No, not at all. He knows about the brutality of the Mongol Empire, all the death and destruction. He's just trying to say it's complicated.
I guess so. It makes him seem more human, I guess.
Exactly. History is rarely just good guys and bad guys, right?
Yeah.
It's more messy than that. And that's what Fridman wants us to see.
It makes you think differently about the people we study, that's for sure. Okay, so we've got space, we've got Genghis Khan. What else did these guys get into?
Well, we can't forget that Fridman himself brings something unique to this conversation. His family.
Oh, right. You mentioned his family is from Ukraine, and he even interviewed Zelensky in person.
Yeah. And get this, he's planning on interviewing Putin, too.
Whoa.
That personal connection to the war, it really adds another layer to his analysis. He even talks about how hard it is to stay neutral when you see the devastation firsthand.
You can feel that tension when he talks about it. He wants to understand both sides, find a way to peace. Is that even possible, though?
That's the big question, right? Fridman seems to think that it's always possible to talk, even when people seem totally opposed. He believes in listening, respecting other viewpoints, even when you disagree.
I get that, but it's easier said than done, especially these days with, like, all the misinformation and manipulation out there.
Which leads right into another big topic, AI.
Yes, good old artificial intelligence.
Fridman gets into the scary side of AI, especially when it comes to translating languages.
Why? What's the issue?
He's worried about people using AI to mess with information, to create deepfakes, and create even more distrust. And this is coming from a guy who knows AI inside and out.
So it's not just someone who doesn't understand tech freaking out. He sees the real potential for things to go bad.
Exactly. And he gives a specific example, too. Something about an interview with Zelensky and how an AI translation caused a big controversy.
Oh, wow. That's messed up.
Right. AI can blur the lines between truth and lies. And if we can't trust translations, if we can't tell what's real, how do we navigate this world? Information is everything.
That's a great point. Knowing what's real and what's fake is so important these days, and it feels like it's getting harder and harder. Okay, so we've got space exploration, AI, and Genghis Khan all in one conversation. Is there any, connection between all of this?
Well, that's the Rogan Experience, right? A little bit of everything, but there are some threads running through it. Like they also talk about social media, and guess what? It's all about manipulation and misinformation.
Yeah.
Same stuff we just talked about.
Huh. I hadn't thought of it like that. It's like they're trying to map the human experience in the digital age.
Exactly. They're talking about the incredible potential of space travel, but also the dark side of technology, the echo chambers online, the struggle to know what's true.
And they're not afraid to get personal. Remember Rogan's story about the tiger attack?
Oh, yeah, that was intense.
It was a bit much, honestly.
Well, that's Rogan for you.
Yeah.
Serious topics, then bam, something super dark and funny. But it shows they're real people, not just talking heads.
Yeah, you're right. They're dealing with the same questions and worries we all face.
Exactly. And that's why this deep dive is so interesting. It's not just about learning facts. It's about understanding how these big ideas affect our lives.
All right, let's take a break here. When we come back, I want to dig deeper into their discussion about Rogan's issues with Michael Flynn and YouTube's multilingual audio feature.
Sounds good to me.
It's amazing how little things can tell you so much about the bigger picture, you know?
Yeah, like clues.
Exactly. And speaking of revealing details, there's this part where Rogan brings up Michael Flynn, the former National Security Advisor guy.
Oh, right. The thing with that journalist who misrepresented Flynn's views on sexual assault.
Yeah, that's it. And Fridman gets super fired up about it. He says that the journalist twisted Flynn's words to fit their own story.
He's got a good point about the responsibility of journalists, especially these days. It's like he's not saying Flynn is right, but he's warning us about how easy it is to take someone's words out of context.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how much of what we read is actually true. How do we know what to believe?
It's tough, especially with social media. Everything spreads so fast, and it's hard to tell what's real.
And that reminds me of Rogan's whole rant about YouTube.
Ah, yes. The love-hate
Oh,
thing.
he loves that there's so much content and that it connects people, but man, he hates their policies.
Yeah, and the censorship, right? And how they seem to favor certain kinds of content over others.
Oh, and don't forget the algorithms. He went on and on about how those algorithms control what we see.
He even tells this funny story where he complimented YouTube's multi-language feature, and it caused this huge internal debate.
Seriously.
Yeah, it's like he accidentally stepped on a landmine or something.
It shows you how sensitive these big platforms are. Even to a little bit of criticism, they have all the power, and it feels like we're stuck with whatever they decide.
Yeah, that's a big concern. Who controls the information online, and are they really doing what's best for us? I mean, it makes you think. And speaking of things that make you think, did you catch the UFO part?
Oh, yeah, they went full conspiracy theory on that one.
Total Rogan, right? Aliens, government cover-ups, he's all in.
He even told a story about a journalist who died mysteriously while investigating NASA.
That's a good one.
It's a good story, I'll give him that. But are you buying it? Do you think there's any truth to those UFO claims?
Me. I stick with the evidence.
Yeah.
And while there are some strange things out there, there's no real proof of aliens. Not yet, anyway.
I guess we'll see, right? But those conversations about UFOs, they always seem to tap into something deeper.
Totally. It's like we need to believe there's something else out there, something beyond us.
Exactly. It's that sense of wonder, you know? And
Yeah.
it makes me think about their discussion on space exploration.
Oh, yeah. It's not just about the technology. It's about what it means to be human out there in the universe.
They were really getting philosophical about it. Like, what happens if we find alien life? Should we colonize other planets? How do we adapt to those environments?
Big questions.
They even talked about, like, the psychological effects of space travel, the isolation, the confinement. I mean, it's not all fun and games up there.
Nope. Space exploration is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a toll on you. And that leads us to another interesting part. Their conversation about social media and mental health.
Oh, right. That was a bit of a downer.
Yeah, they talked about how addictive those platforms can be.
Yeah.
The pressure to look perfect online, constantly comparing yourself to others. It's a recipe for anxiety and depression.
They even brought up FOMO, you know, the fear of missing out. Seeing everyone else's amazing lives online just makes you feel bad about your own life.
Totally. It's this weird paradox, right? Social media connects us, but it also makes us feel so disconnected and not good enough.
And then there's the whole privacy thing, or lack thereof. They went deep on how our privacy is basically disappearing online.
That's a bit scary, isn't it? All our data being collected and used. They called it surveillance capitalism. They talked about how our attention is being sold, algorithms tracking our every move. It's kind of creepy.
Super creepy. It's like someone's always watching you. Is there even such a thing as privacy anymore?
It makes you wonder, right? But it's a wake-up call. We need to pay attention to how our data is being used and try to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. So where did they go from there?
Well, then they got into how technology is changing relationships, for better or worse.
Oh, yeah, the online dating stuff.
Yeah, how those apps are changing the rules of dating, the blurring lines between real and virtual connection. It's a whole new world out there.
A brave new world. Speaking of which, what about Fridman's insights on the war in Ukraine?
Oh, man, those were powerful. He's talked to soldiers and civilians who've been through it. And the things he describes, the trauma, the PTSD, it's heartbreaking.
It reminds you that war isn't just about politics, it's about real people, real lives being destroyed.
Exactly. Broken families, shattered dreams, the scars that never really heal. It's heavy stuff.
It makes you think about the long-term consequences, you know, the damage that lasts for generations.
Yeah. But even in the darkness, Fridman finds some hope. He talks about getting help for trauma, building strong communities, finding ways to heal. It's about resilience, about the human spirit's ability to survive.
And from there, they jumped to artificial intelligence, right?
Right. This time it was about how AI could impact the future of humanity.
They talked about how fast AI is developing and the potential benefits, but also the risks.
Like, what does it even mean to be human when machines can think like us?
They even got into AGI, artificial general intelligence. Isn't that like science fiction stuff?
It used to be.
Yeah.
But now it's getting real. It makes you ask, what are our responsibilities to these machines? What if we create something smarter than us? It's kind of freaky.
Definitely makes you think. What did they say about the impact of AI on jobs?
They talked about automation, machines replacing human workers. And that could lead to mass unemployment and a lot of social problems.
Yeah, a lot of people are worried about that.
Right? But they also said AI could create new jobs and industries, and that it could make us more productive and improve our lives.
So it's about adapting, right? Making sure we're prepared for the future.
Exactly. We need to make sure the benefits of AI are shared with everyone. And that brings us back to education. We need to equip people with the skills they need to thrive in this new world.
So it's not just about learning facts anymore. It's about being able to adapt and learn new things quickly.
Right. And being able to think critically, solve problems, those essential skills. And speaking of challenges, they ended by talking about the importance of hope and optimism.
That's important, especially with everything going on in the world.
Yeah. They acknowledged all the problems we face. Climate change, political division, even the threat of nuclear war. It's scary stuff.
But they still believe in humanity.
Yes. They said we have the power to change things, both as individuals and together as a society. We can make a difference.
It's a good reminder that we're not powerless.
Exactly. We have the power to shape our future. It's a message of hope and resilience.
I like that. Okay, so we've covered a lot. Where do we even go from here?
Well, I think we need to take a step back and think about what it all means. Rogan and Fridman gave us a lot to process, and it's up to us to decide what resonates with us, what we agree with, and what we don't.
It's a lot to unpack for sure, but that's what makes these deep dives so interesting.
They challenge us to think critically and engage with big ideas. And ultimately, that's what matters.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's try to pull all of this together. What are the key takeaways, and what can our listener learn from this whirlwind of a conversation?
Sounds good to me.
That was a lot. Rogan and Fridman, they cover so much ground.
I know, right? It's almost too much to handle in one conversation. But that's also why this deep dive is so valuable. It's not about giving you all the answers. It's about exploring the questions. And I think that's something you, as someone interested in these topics, will really appreciate.
For sure. I mean, the way they connected all these different topics is fascinating. We went from space travel to Genghis Khan to AI, and it all felt like connected to the human experience.
Right. It's like they're tracing our whole history, from our earliest battles to the craziest technology. And through it all, they keep asking those big questions. What does it mean to be human? What are our values? What's our purpose?
And the thing is, they don't have easy answers. They argue, they debate, but they always come back to this shared curiosity, this need to understand the world.
And that's the lesson here. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about engaging with these ideas, thinking for yourself. This deep dive is just the beginning.
I like that. A starting point. The thing that really got to me was Fridman's take on AI translation. The idea that we might not even be able to trust translated information, that deepfakes could become, indistinguishable from reality.
Yeah.
It's a bit scary.
It is. It shows the power of this technology. But I think Fridman's warning is a good thing. It's a wake-up call. We need to be smarter about the information we consume. We need to be critical thinkers. And we need to make sure the people developing AI are doing it ethically.
We've talked about so much in this deep dive. Space travel, AI, misinformation, the future of work. It's a lot. And honestly, sometimes it feels kind of hopeless.
I get it. It can feel overwhelming. But even with all these challenges, there's still room for hope. Rogan and Fridman, they both believe in the human spirit, in our ability to innovate, to solve problems, to survive.
They remind us that we have the power to shape our own future.
Exactly. We're not just passengers. We can make choices. We can make a difference. And I think that's a really powerful message.
It is. So what's the one thing you hope people will take away from this?
I hope they'll be more curious. I hope they'll challenge what they think they know. And I hope they'll believe they can change things. Because the future isn't something that just happens to us. We create it together.
Thanks for joining us on this crazy journey through the minds of Joe Rogan and Lex Fridman. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.